Did you know you can actually negotiate your bills for things like phone, cable, and internet? Those are just some of the tips that we're going to be getting into when focusing on saving money during a recession. However, let's bring it back a little bit and start with the basics. The most important thing you can do for yourself is creating a budget. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can go about this. One of the most common ways to do this is the 50-30-20 rule. That means 50% will go to needs, whether that's things like utility, your rent, your food. 30% of it will go to things like wants, whether that's spending money eating out, buying new shoes, whatever it may be, and 20% will go to savings. Now, of course, that's not going to work for everybody. Different people have different living standards and things they need to pay for, so it's very likely your needs may be up at 60-70%, but that doesn't mean that you can't still try to create a budget and follow it. It's going to improve your consistency with saving money and budgeting out all of your money and making sure you know where everything is going and nothing catches you by surprise. So if you've never tried to make a budget before, definitely start there. Any step will help you in that consistency and trying to find some common ground for building up a better process. While you are making that budget, the next tip is another simple one, but it's finding those expenses that you can easily cut out or at least cut back on, whether it's things like entertainment, going out to the movies, going out to the bars, or things like cable TV. You might not watch it anymore. You're mainly utilizing Netflix and it's kind of just a bill that you've had hanging around. You could also restructure that. So finding those things, whether it's eating out, the entertainment, anything like that, knowing when you can cut it back and kind of maintain still the lifestyle you like, but saving a lot of money because you didn't realize how much you were doing a certain thing or how much you were utilizing something like one of those subscriptions. It's going to be an easy way to start to cut back and remain with a little bit more money at the end of the month. And that does lead me into what I brought up at the beginning of this video, which is negotiating your bills. This is actually something that's very common. It might seem a little bit daunting to do, call up your provider and to see if you can actually negotiate those bills, but it's something that they're very used to and that a lot of people are already doing. It's just not often talked about too much. So you can actually call your cable, your internet, your phone provider and negotiate a better rate. Now, oftentimes, one of the easiest ways to do this is to, assess your options. Let them know that you've checked out some other deals out there and let them know that you're thinking about leaving. That's often the time where they will quickly, magically find a new deal for you and reduce those rates to which you're going to be saving money every single month. It's very common. Give it a try if you haven't. It doesn't work every single time, but it definitely works more often than you think. Speaking of saving money, people often overlook some of the necessities like a phone plan because they think it's an unavoidable larger expense. That's why I'm proud to partner with Mint Mobile for today's video. You've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, whether you've seen some ads with Ryan Reynolds, who's one of the owners, but let me tell you a little bit about how effective their plans are for saving you money. A phone plan doesn't have to break the bank, especially when you consider the fact that Mint Mobile's network is built on the nation's largest 5G network. So really, why should you pay more money to access the same network when Mint Mobile offers plans starting as low as $15 a month? Not to mention, switching to Mint is incredibly easy. Thanks to their digital eSIM cards, you can sign up and activate immediately, meaning you don't have to wait around at a big wireless store. You can even keep your same device and phone number, and if your phone doesn't happen to be compatible, they'll even send you a new SIM card in the mail for free. You'll have access to everything you need for a high-speed and great phone plan, like lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspots, and unlimited nationwide talk and text. Thank you to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this video. There's always refinancing your debt as well. Now, this one could be a little bit trickier, but again, there's certain things that you may have overlooked along this process. For example, credit cards. Everybody is going to have to deal with credit cards at some point, most likely, and those fees can really start to add up if you're not paying those bills on time. However, if you do call once again, you can get a pause on the interest if you kind of assess your options once again. If you're respectful, you explain the situation and you kind of explain that you want to get back on track and keep this credit card at this company, if they can waive these fees for a certain amount of time or the interest rate, they will often make some accommodations in which you're going to be saving money and not needing to pay that interest over the course of the next few months. So again, it's definitely worth a shot trying to get those calls in and seeing if you can restructure some of that stuff that you already signed up for. It is definitely possible. Now, this tip is something that I think can work for absolutely everybody because we've all seen how much grocery prices have gone up. It is going to be doing some meal planning. It doesn't mean that you have to be eating out of a container the same meal every single day. However, structuring how you're going to make your food, how you're going to purchase it, and what you're going to do with it is a little bit more cost effective than just kind of going about it day per day and not really planning it out. So if you can do things like buy rice in bulk, cook up a bunch of the rice at the beginning of the week, and utilize that for a few different meals going forward, you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of money, and it's going to work out a bit simpler. Now, if you can also do things like certain meal preps and have that meal made at the beginning of the week in a little bit more bulk options where you're cooking out those portions all at once, that is a fantastic way not only to make healthier meals, but also to save money, because you're kind of condensing all of that stuff into one big bulk run, whether it's going to be cheaper ingredients like rice or beans, or even the more expensive things like chicken. It is going to be much more cost effective to do it this way, and it also reduces your likelihood that you'll want to go out and eat because you know you've already got something prepared at home. Next up, it's always good to keep it simple. A lot of people will try to kind of change the way they're doing things too much, whether that's finding a new credit card that might be a little bit better, or opening this new bank account or that new bank account. Kind of keep it simple. If you do need to make some changes, that's totally okay, but don't go overboard and find yourself juggling too many pieces. If you can, just pay off something that you're already working on. That's often the best way to go. If you're going to be opening new accounts and balancing new fees here or missing deadlines there, it's going to work against you. Even though you're trying to do the right thing by finding a more responsible account with a better deal, it can be a little bit too much. So just assess your options, make sure that you're going to be able to stay on top of everything. That often does come back to the idea of creating a budget, knowing when you need to pay those bills off, knowing when you need to manage that money, but don't overthink it. Just work on what's at hand, kind of the task that you can see in front of you, whether that's paying down that credit card before swapping, before trying to find a new one that gives you more points. Just work on the things that you know you can do and that aren't going to be too much at any given moment. Finally, of course, there is always the option of selling things that you don't use anymore. Everybody's got something in their house or their apartment that they're not really utilizing too much that has a bit of value, whether that's an old gaming console, some old weights that you're not using, a different type of musical instrument that you don't touch anymore. There's always things like that, clothing, shoes, that you can go ahead and resell. Now, this is going to be a little bit daunting because sometimes you think the whole process of it, which website am I going to sell it on, how am I going to ship it? It is pretty simple. There's a bunch of websites out there, even if you're choosing eBay or Depop or whatever it may be, even Craigslist. It is pretty simple. It can go much smoother than you'd think, and shipping doesn't have to be too big of an issue. You can always sell locally if you need to as well. So that's always a great way to get a little bit of extra money. And of course, you can take that and start investing with it as well. Now, I have tons of videos covering investing, so you can go check that out on my channel. But those are some of the ways to start saving money during the recession, as well as actually generating a little bit more income and having more money left over at the end of the month to give yourself a little bit more of a buffer and a little bit more breathing room. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Subscribe to my channel to stay up to date. And thank you, of course, to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this video. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Peace.